everyone, it is Liam Caddison here, and this is something that I don't usually do that often, because usually with movies, I'd like to relax. I'm a bit exhausted coming back from the cinema and whatnot, but to say I'm exhausted, not even close. I am still beaming with energy after just returning from the cinema, and we're going to be delving into a bit of a discussion of sorts. I'll do this for about 20 minutes because I've got to pop back out, not with this on, so yes. But I actually went out in this in public, and I got a few great comments. So, that was awesome. But, yeah, we're going to be dishing into some discussions, and these will be spoiler territory. I mean, the title will say it itself, just to caution people who have not seen the movie. But, even if this was non-spoiler, I would caution people to see the movie as soon as possible. But yeah, if you're seeing this video, then you've either seen the movie, do not care about spoilers, and yeah, so yeah. Because there's quite a bit to talk about, so I don't know how I'm going to squeeze this into 20 minutes, but we'll see. We'll see how we go. But man, I am so happy with how that movie turned out. I will say, No Way Home is probably my favorite live-action Spider-Man movie of all time. It is just a very, very nice movie that really does the Spider-Man character justice, especially with some of the travesties that happen in the movie, as well as a nice celebration of the past Spider-Man movies. It's just really, really great to have this movie recognize the significance and the characteristics of Spider-Man. And not just that, though, but propel I guess the current Spider-Man for future movies, because obviously we know this is not going to be Tom Holland's last movie as Spider-Man. But I think with the way things ended, this is a nice transition stage to the young gun who is still young in his days as Spider-Man, to someone more, I guess, maturer, someone who I guess, as we kind of see in the film, although we don't get a clear look-see, he is no longer, I guess, relying on Stark technology. So yeah, it's and with him moving into the next I guess stage of his life with college and whatnot, he is growing up, and obviously that's going to shape itself for the incoming trilogy, aka his college years. So yeah, but yeah, it was just really great. It was emotional. There was a lot of laughs. The pacing was really good, especially in, I would say, in the three acts that I will consider this movie had. I think the pacing was really well done. Obviously, the aftermath of Far From Home's ending was obviously going to be where we were picked up, and I think the focus on that itself before we moved on to Doc Ock, Goblin, etc. showing up, I think it was handled really well in my opinion. It was really well done. I smiled at a certain Matt Murdock's appearance. Charlie Cox, I'm happy. I was so happy. That was like, I launched myself up there, so yeah, it was just so great seeing Charlie Cox's, like, it was only one scene, but it was great. Okay, I will take it. And considering that we will, if we are to believe the rumors, we're going to be seeing him again in She-Hulk, in Echo, and potentially season 4 of Daredevil. So I'm so happy. But yeah, the pacing for all three acts was really impressive and well done, and the story just has a very, very good vibe of emotion scattered through the movies, whether it's humorous and positive, or whether it's devastating and just heartbreaking. It really has a nice, it doesn't feel forced whatsoever. It's really impressive. So, like, even the villains have some really comedical moments, especially from Doc Ock. So there is that. And even the elephant in the room between the three Spider-Men. Well, I will say, in the cinema, when Andrew first appeared, everyone gasped and applauded. I loved that, and obviously I chimed in because why not? It would be a bit awkward if I was like, yeah, no one else is joining it. Okay. But yeah, Andrew appearing was just really impressive. And then, of course, 2 minutes later, we had Toby show up, and it got emotional for me because obviously being Spider-Man being my favorite hero, this was a pretty big deal for me, especially when they had the nostalgic music from both their films appear. It was really great. But there, like I said, there was some great banter going on. They even did the Spider-Man pointing thing, even though it wasn't in the costumes. It's still something. I think we would be robbed if we didn't have a pointing sequence, right? So we had it. So, but I think it comes off naturally, if that makes sense. They won't just do it for like shit and giggles. Oh, we have to put this in because why not? They do it it feels natural in a sense. So, oh, we got to do the pointing thing. We don't have any of that. They just do it out of instinct, and that's really, really great. So I really liked how the pointing meme, as I guess requested, we we're going to have these three actors appear in the same sequence. I loved how that came naturally, and it wasn't like we kind of had an idea for it, but like I said, I think it works better when it comes naturally, if that makes sense. So yeah. But there were some really nice moments, but I really loved the more poignant moments as well. Like when obviously Peter was reeling with May's death, which really hit me in the gut. There is those essence of Spider-Man no more, I feel. And obviously you have Andrew and Toby's Spideys try to convince him, especially with them relating in terms of how they continued to push onwards despite their travesty, with Uncle Ben, with Gwen, and how we gotta save everyone and we gotta sort these villains out. So, and I really, really do like the idea that they wanted to help the villains out rather than just, okay, yeet them back to their own universe without adjusting them. They tried to rectify them because obviously these characters who appear in No Way Home, these villains, they were someone else beforehand. Lizard was something else. He was in a we had Dr. Connors, who had no malice. He had that. He was, of course, trying to regenerate his arm. Obviously, things went sideways with Lizard, and then Sandman. Of course, there is that travesty with Penny, and how he accidentally killed Uncle Ben, and even Toby in Spider-Man 3, we had that sequence where Toby Spidey forgave him. We had Doc Ock, of course, so we know with the Newell inhibitor, and then Green Goblin, and even Electro. All these villains do have a different side, but things turned in, and I think that's what screams a very, very important deal. Like, we had something devastating happen to Tom's Spider-Man, and all these villains have had something devastating to happen to them that's made them turn to the dark side. So you have these two Spider-Men caution Tom to not go that road, and there is still a lot of adrenaline going through Tom, which that sequence where he was about to impale Norman with his own glider, I was like, and I will say there were moments where I just thought that Toby's Spidey was gonna die, especially when Toby went in front of the glider, held it back, and then Goblin just impales him. Heart literally stopped. So that was great because I'm like, no, we're not going to lose Toby Spidey. Please don't tell me this is it. And thankfully he lives to see another day, obviously. So, yeah. But yeah, it was pretty amazing, this film. I just really loved it. Like I said, the chemistry with all three live action Spideys was just pretty amazing. And what I really loved is, of course, the pre-battle talk when they were discussing about how their web comes about and what villains they've faced, and Avengers is our band. Yeah. Just the banter was just really well done, and it's just so enjoyable. There is never a moment where you see more than one Spidey's conversing with the other Spidey, and you just never lose that happy feeling. You're just smiling, and you're just so enthusiastic all the way through. So, and I really loved once they, of course, did cure the villains. We had retrospective moments with Toby and Andrew's Spideys to their villains. Andrew's conversation with Electro was really great. Because obviously you're my eyes and ears, and Electro really went off. Even when Peter tried to quell him in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, it was that bloody sniper and everything, shit just hit the fan. And now that you have that encouragement of turning over a new leaf, it's really nice to see that moment. I don't know if I would have loved to have seen him converse with Connors more so than Electro, but I feel like with the You're My Eyes and Ears and everything, there is that responsibility. So yeah. So and plus he did die in a sense, whereas Kurt not so much. So yeah, and then you have Toby meeting with Ock, which was really incredible. It was really good as well because and I think that's what makes things a bit diverse, I guess, because you have Andrew's Spidey talk to Electro, and like I said, I think I don't know if I would have wanted him to talk with Kurt, but we already have a Spider-Man talking to a mentor-esque role, because obviously there was that kind of mentor vibe with Doc Ock and Toby's Spidey in Spider-Man 2. So it does change things up a bit. So yeah. So yeah, and I gotta say, I'm so happy with Andrew's kind of redemption. I was so I was right. I was thinking, are they not going to have Andrew save MJ? Okay, then. Because it would have subverted my expectations, but then Goblin took Peter away, and you had Andrew's Spidey no, and then saves MJ, who he did consider Gwen his MJ, which was really nice. And what makes that scene even more better is the shock on Andrew's face, the all that pain of him failing to save Gwen, that comes rushing to him, that he manages to save MJ, and yeah, the eyes were watering. So it was it was a very beautifully poignant moment, and I just loved it so much because it was that redemption. And Andrew Spidey even said that it's something that I will never forgive myself over, and he just did something that is all of us can pretty much say is redemption for him. So yeah, but I really loved it, and the hug at the end, just the chemistry with all three Spider-Men was just pretty amazing. And even Toby and Andrew's scene on their own was just so amazing. So I was happy. And what also works for these Spider-Men is that I don't have a sense that they overshadows if anything, especially during the final sequence, the focus was more so on Tom. So I didn't feel like Toby and Andrew was overshadowing Tom's Spider-Man. I feel like they were able to include them without taking anything away. So I really loved how that came about. So awesome. Shall we just talk about other... Well, I do want to talk about when the multiverse was opening, we did see silhouettes of characters. And I want to go back to that when I do get the chance, because I want to see if there's any outline that resembles iconic characters from the Spider-Man lore. So, yeah. Because I was trying to think, are we going to see, characters that we haven't seen before? Are we going to see a Rhino? Well, we have seen, Rhino, but... yeah, are we going to see a Rhino? Are we going to see a, like, maybe, I don't know, Shocker is going to be a bit more difficult in his comic. Yeah, so, yeah, I was just trying to, like, are we going to see Black Cat, maybe? The silhouette of Black Cat. So at that moment, I thought Venom was going to actually emerge. And on that note, I will say I'm a tad bit disappointed with the post-credit scene because when, obviously, Venom, let there be carnage spoilers, when we saw in the post-credit scene, Venom being transported to the MCU, I was thinking, oh, we're going to have Tom and Tom, really. We're going to have Venom versus Spider-Man at some point, surely. And then in the post-credit scene, he just gets whammied back to his universe, presumably. So there is that little bit of symbiote that is still around, which obviously is potentially going to set up for when Tom might get the symbiote. And given his reaction to Goblin in this film, I'm really excited for when Tom gets the symbiote, because the way he just went off against Goblin in that final fight, it was just terrifying. I gotta say, the anger and the aggression that Tom let out against Goblin was just frightening. So when he gets the symbiote, it's gonna be a hell of a time. So yeah. So yeah, I just really... so yeah, I'm low-key disappointed with Venom getting yeeted back to his universe, but I am excited for the prospect that we will potentially, more than likely, get to see Tom donning the symbiote, so yeah. Aunt May's death was very heart-wrenching, and of course, with her echoing the great responsibility line, which was really, really amazing, and sad. Yeah, it just... like, even Tom's reaction to May's death was, yeah, it was devastating. And like I said, I do like the idea that this was his moment of Spider-Man no more, especially with the blame being pinned on him and just everything. And he feels that responsibility that May's death was all for nothing. And you could really see how he was this close to just giving up, because Aunt May dying was just, yeah. And he's gone through the ringer, this Spider-Man. Not to diminish any other Spider-Man and their trauma, but we've seen him just being dusted. We've seen him lose Tony, Uncle Ben, just everything. And the pain didn't even stop at May's death, of course, because the spell did work. Peter made that sacrifice. And like I said, I feel like with this movie, it really encapsulates the, in my mind, who Spider-Man is. And is a nice celebration of that. And Tom Spidey made that sacrifice to stop the multiverse from bleeding into the MCU. He made that sacrifice to have MJ, to have the entire world forget about the idea that Peter and Spider-Man are the same person. And we saw when he went to meet with MJ, yeah, you could really see it on his face how he was just on the cusp of breaking as well. So, yeah. But yeah, there was some really, really, like, Aunt May's death was just very, very devastating. Yeah. They had us as well, because I thought she was gonna walk this off with how, I'm fine, and then she just collapses. Yeah. So that was heartbreaking. But I gotta say, the feast fight with Goblin and Peter was just so raw, so incredibly done. And I gotta say, Goblin was... I've got to say, I really enjoyed this incarnation of Goblin, more so than the Spider-Man 1 edition. I don't know why, but there is a lot more menacing vibes coming from this incarnation of Willem's Goblin compared to the first movie, and it's just... yeah, it's just so devastating, and... like, with that in mind, how Peter just goes off against him. at the Statue of Liberty. Yeah, I gotta say, I really enjoyed this version of Willem's Goblin more so than Spider-Man 1 edition. So yeah. So I really loved Goblin in this movie, and that frustration that Toby just dished out. Phew. But I really loved the misleading trailers as well, because one, he said, don't cast that spell, it's dangerous. And we had in the movie, I wasn't here if anyone asks, basically. So, yeah, and of course, we had the Scooby-Doo this shit, rather than Scooby-Doo this crap. So, yeah, I just really loved it. And there was even some iconic lines as well. Toby, my back. I was like, my back. And then the entire audience just lost it when Norman was like, I'm something of a scientist myself, because that's a fucking meme. They knew what they were doing. Come on. So, to the point, like, I was so convinced that there was going to be a few meme fan servicey bits when Peter goes to his apartment. I was prepared to see Mr. Dickovich. Rent. So, yeah. But yeah, it was really emotional. There was some tears, there was some shocks, there was some just amazing moments. So you know what? I want Andrew as well to keep denying that he's in Spider-Man No Way Home, even though that now the cat's out the bag. Months of him saying, I'm not in it. I am not in it. That's photoshopped. I want him to continue doing that just for shits and giggles. So, yeah. I also got to say, I love how Toby convinces Andrew's Spider-Man that he is amazing. He kept repeating it. I'm like, I know what you're doing there. So, yeah, but like I said, I feel like the fights were pretty amazing, especially when Sandman and Electro fought each other. I thought that was really great, and the Doc Ock fight on the infamous bridge scene. So I really loved how that was executed. All the fight scenes were pretty impressive, not gonna lie, even of course at the final one at the Statue of Liberty. But I do say I have to commend the adrenaline and the emotion whenever Peter went up against Goblin. So yeah, whether they're gonna do their own version of Goblin remains to be seen, but it will be very interesting to see how they do handle that. Part of me thinks that they won't, so they can give other villains in the roster a chance to breathe. But we shall see. But yeah, and the whole Strange and Spidey confrontation was pretty sick as well. So yeah, but in terms of their fight across the Mirrorverse and how he was able to use math as his ally to beat magic. So, which showcases the intellect of Peter Parker, of course. But like I said, I feel like I'm going to wrap this up because I've got to head back out anyway. So yeah, and get this off. But yeah, I feel like this movie did a very fantastic job at showcasing not just the characteristics of Spider-Man for Tom's Spider-Man, in my opinion, but also it was a nice celebration of the Spider-Man films. It was really incredible. The writing was superb. The pacing for all three acts was just really great. And I didn't feel like the fan service stuff, because there's going to be some fan service stuff, obviously, with all these villains showing up, with all these Spider-Men showing up, with the music, etc. It didn't feel forced whatsoever. Like I said, with the whole pointing thing, that came naturally. You could have just done a post-credit scene where they were like, woo, 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 in their suits, but I feel like that was as natural as they came, in my opinion. So, yeah, but it was really incredible. MJ and Ned were pretty great in terms of their utilization for this movie. So, yeah, but it was filled with so much emotion. There was some hilarious moments. There were some very devastating moments, and moments that I just crashed and blue screened the heck out of there. So, yeah. But I gotta say, I don't know. I don't want to just say this is probably my favorite live action movie for Spider-Man. I want to say that this might be my favorite MCU film because this was freaking incredible. This was probably my favorite cinema experience, in my opinion. It was just so good. There was just a lot of emotions. Time really flew by with that movie. Like, it does when it comes to other Marvel movies, I guess, but it just flew by 10 times the speed. So I gotta say, this was incredible. And yeah, I loved it. I love this movie. I'm definitely going to be rewatching this a plethora of times. I want to get another cinema booking in. I won't be wearing this again. This was a one-time occasion, but I want to get another booking in. I do know that my girlfriend does plan on watching it at some point, but I do want to see it more than once, 500 times. But yeah, pretty amazing film. I just loved it. Of course, there's going to be. It's not the perfect movie of all time, but I will say it's a nice tribute, I would say, to not just the Spider-Man in every movie that we've had, but also a nice... I feel like they did Tom's Spider-Man really, really well, from him growing as a Spider-Man to the travesty that he had to endure and just the emotion that came from Tom. It was just incredible, and the villains were just really amazing, especially Doc Ock. It was very emotional, especially if you grew up watching the Raimi films. It was really emotional, and they did solid in my opinion. So awesome stuff. So I'm gonna get going because I gotta get going. So I will see you guys next time. Let me know what you thought of this movie, because I'm really intrigued to learn about the opinions and whatnot regarding this movie. But yeah, let me know what you thought about this movie. Of course, you can feel free, because this has obviously been a spoiler discussion. Otherwise, it's yeah. I hope no one who hasn't watched. I mean, there's been plenty of warnings, so yeah. But no. Let me know what you guys thought. And yeah, I will see you guys next time. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. And yeah, you can check my media feeds and whatnot on the right. And yeah, until the next time, toodles!